23rd of June 2016, 51.9% of the British people voted in a referendum to withdraw from the European Union. This is how we have come to the portmanteau of British and exit, Brexit. The road to Brexit has proved to be narrow, filled with political intrigues and economic postulations, but I won't bore you with such details. Brexit is scheduled for 29th of March 2019. If Prime Minister Theresa May is able to get a consensus for a deal from the British Parliament. So how does this concern us here in Nigeria when we have our own myriads of challenges we are grappling with? Well, Nigeria's relationship with the UK dates way back to over 100 years ago. So a Brexit will likely affect you and me one way or another. So take for instance, in 2018, Nigeria's trade relations with the UK was estimated at over £4.2 billion per year. So will Brexit affect this volume of trade negatively? Stay with me in this edition of Bounce Masterclass as I seek answers to this question and more from the representatives of Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce here in Lagos. So I am privileged to have a gentleman and lady who are in charge of Nigeria British Chamber of Commerce join me here. I'm going to introduce the president himself, Mr. Akin Olawore. Okay, Mr. Akin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And the Director General, Madam Bunmi Afolabi. Madam Bunmi Afolabi is the Director General. Thank you for making our time to join me to explain things here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to be talking about Brexit. We hear it on television. Especially, it's predominantly the news that comes from Europe or London or UK these days. But we want to bring it home, to see how it affects us here, especially people who do business with the UK. So, Mr. Akin, I want to ask you, can you concisely explain what Brexit is?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the idea of Brexit is becoming clearer. Even you'll find that at the referendum, a lot of the British people that voted to either leave or stay did not understand what Brexit actually meant. But now we're getting more clarity, you know, as the deadline of March 29 is approaching. First of all, Brexit is like Britain getting out of the European Union, not out of Europe. It can't leave Europe, because it did not decide for itself where it was going to be. It's like Nigeria leaving Africa. We're in Africa. But getting out of the union. So what does the union mean? The union has come together to agree that let us be one in terms of our economy, in terms of the way we run our economy, regulation, tariffs, and all of that. So it's like one country. You enter into one, and you have customs relations with the, like the Schengen, which is also a sub-unit of EU. So in terms of trade, they have all come together in terms of trade now. In terms of trade, goods get into the UK and it goes by road onto other parts of Europe.
Okay.
You know, so it's like goods getting into Lagos and going by road to other parts of Nigeria. The moment it has come into Lagos and you pay the duties, that's all. The rest is like domestic. Okay, so now there are regulations around it because now they're like one economy. They're like one in terms of trade.
Okay.
So regulations, financial regulations also come into being. And these are some of the things that some of the British people are then now saying that, look, how can we subject ourselves to regulations put together by people we did not vote into office? Because immediately, a lot of this became clearer too after the financial meltdown.
Okay.
After the financial meltdown, Europe came up with more stringent, in fact, you'll find that the meltdown didn't affect Europe much. It did, but not as much as the US. And then they came up with more stringent regulations that affected all of them. Now, these regulations in the financial industry are the basic for all those in EU. And then you can add more of your own. So that means that whatever things, business or whatever you are doing in terms of trade, commerce in the UK must adhere to the EU policy as the minimum. So it means that for each country, you cannot decide on your own that you want to do less than that. You would also have had issues of the budget of Italy and the EU saying, no, you can't pass that budget. And it's like, hey, are we a sovereign state? Or we are all one state within 36 State Federation of Nigeria?
So Britain decided enough with that.
We want to retain our independence in terms of everything.
Nigeria is no longer a part of the old British Empire. That relationship ended about 58 years ago. So, in 2019, how is Britain important to Nigeria?
Okay, very quickly, what I would say is that, yes, in terms of political control, yes, we're free of British rule, okay? But there's been a lot of social trade integration. The UK is host and home to more Nigerians than any other part of the world. You know, I think it's estimated to be over 2 million. You will also find that in the parliament in the UK, you have Nigerians. In fact, the last election, we had almost about 3 or 5 Nigerians coming in. You have Nigerians still being knighted by the Queen. You have Nigerians still receiving because they've been entrenched in the system. And that shows that we are almost like one. It's almost like second home to virtually everybody here. You know, so it's been very important. But so when you then now say that people are entrenched, also culturally, there will be some rubbing off. I don't want to say infiltration. I would say rubbing off.
Yeah. And so, even a lot of our own economies, policies, they're all based on the British system. Our law, constitution, our laws.
Yeah. Our law, look, when the lawyers are going to tell you the sources of Nigerian law, one of them is received English laws. So we start the basis from the received English laws. Okay. Then we start to build on it based on who we are.
So that means Britain remains very important to Nigeria.
Critically important.
And so madam, let me come to you. Should Brexit matter to Nigeria?
Yes, it should. In fact, probably more than any other country in West Africa, because within West Africa, there are only 2 really that are Anglophone, like Ghana and ourselves. Brexit presents a major opportunity for Nigeria. If you look at the trade between the UK and Nigeria, in the last couple of years, it hasn't been as high as it should have been if you consider the history that we mentioned earlier. But with Brexit coming up, it means that Britain definitely has to look to other trading partners. And who more naturally would they look to than Nigeria, given all the various close associations that we mentioned earlier? So it should matter to us because it presents an opportunity. You know what they say about the fact that the Chinese word for a problem actually also has opportunity in it. So it means that even as it seemingly seems to be a problem, there are lots of opportunities.
So that brings me to my 4th question, which is Brexit, ahead of Brexit. Should Nigerians be positioning themselves for opportunities, or should we be steeling ourselves for a hard impact? So how exactly does one prepare for a Brexit if you are here in Nigeria?
Definitely we should be prepared, positioning for opportunities. Okay. Yes, there will be impact, but they're not things that would bring us down. Rather, they should actually take us up. So in terms of how do we position, one of the big trusts of the government in the last couple of years has been export. We have lots and lots of products in Nigeria, from agricultural products even to retail. Some of our beer and things like that are currently being exported to the UK. So agriculture, for example, we have lots of cashew nuts, different things, sesame seeds that can be exported to the UK. So if we position ourselves by ensuring that we begin to make sure that our products meet the required standards in terms of packaging, in terms of how it's produced, we begin to ensure that we are ready by the time Britain says, look, we need more trading partners, we need people to trade with, that we're able to trade. You know, that we're actually ready. When they say, oh, we need sesame seeds, where are we going? They come to Nigeria, they find seeds that are ready for their own system and their own country, because of course we know that their standards are very high. So we ensure that we're positioned in that way. And in so many other ways as well. Even in terms of professional services, there are lots of, one of the issues that Brexit brings up is that of immigration. So now people from other European countries cannot just move into Britain and work, because obviously now they are no longer this part of the same union. So they will also be looking for professionals to do work for them. I know that already there's some talks about some changes to the immigration laws that are being considered. So our professionals should also be positioned such that when they're looking for people, it's easy for us to fill those gaps as they come up.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Sorry, just to mention about the impact. There are two, positive and negative. Like you said, I think the negative one is more of uncertainty. Because, okay, now we know what the EU says about tariff. We know what the standard says about goods coming in. We know what it says about this, about that. Now we're going to have ostensibly two trading nations, EU
and the UK.
And the UK. So now we are uncertain about tariffs. But in terms of the larger impact, it's going to be more positive. Now you have two trading nations to deal with. One is smaller, one is bigger. So it depends on what we're trading. It depends on what we want to say. But you see, you find that even within EU, our affinity is with the UK, because that's where we understand each other's language.
Yes.
That's where we're coming with the same legal system. As a matter of fact, when people draft international agreements, say the international arbitration is in London. Because that is where we have similar legal system and similar understanding of what we say. You know, so yes, we need to be preparing. It's going to be a very interesting time. And you'll also notice that there's about within the last 6 months, we've had the mayor of the city of London visiting twice. You've had the prince visiting, you've had the prime minister visiting, you've had the trade envoy visiting.
Okay, so it's definitely going to be an exciting time for Nigeria.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we'll go on a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue from where we stopped. Welcome back. You are still watching Bun's Masterclass, and then we are talking about Brexit and how it's going to affect you and me in Nigeria. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook at Bounce News Nigeria and on Twitter at Bounce News NG. You can also click the subscribe button on YouTube, so we let you know when the next edition of Bounce Masterclass is purchased. Then back to you, madam.
Yes.
Nigeria's trade relations with the UK is estimated at over £4.2 billion per year. Now, this even includes remittances, for instance. Okay, is a Brexit likely to affect this volume of trade?
Naturally, it should increase, as we have tried to say earlier.
Yes.
Now we should be getting more trade to and from the UK, because we would be a natural next port of call for them. One other industry that we didn't mention earlier that should witness a huge increase is also mining. The UK government is actually focusing a lot of mining in recent times, and that is the extractive sector is also one that is gaining prominence in Nigeria. So if you look at just adding extractives to the volume of our trade alone, you can imagine how much more it would increase.
So in your own estimation, we are doing about 4.2 billion now per year. So if if Brexit is to take place, what level of increase are we expecting?
President talked earlier about uncertainty.
Yes.
It's difficult to actually predict and say it will be 5.2 or 10 or whatever, but without a doubt it should increase.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we can dare to say it will double, but let's see how it goes. But without a doubt, whatever level it will get to is also in our hands. If we are properly positioned to take advantage, there is no way that it won't increase.
Awesome.
And I like what she said about, look, it's got to be in our hands, both Nigerians and the British people. I'll just tell you, a lot of the British SMEs, because of the EU zone, have also forgotten that they have market in the Commonwealth and especially Nigeria. And over time, successive generations have continued to look inwards. So now that Brexit is coming, they're also becoming a bit jittery. I don't know how to deal with Nigeria. And then you look at some of the fake news and the bad publicity. It's like people start getting jittery. But until they get here, when they get here, it's like, oh, I don't know, this is like not just warm weather, but what people, you know, and then things start, you know, beginning to thaw and people start to get better. So really, just like it's in life, if you're driving a car and you want to increase your speed and you change your gear to a higher one, you will drop speed first before you pick up speed. So the same thing is likely to happen.
Awesome. Okay, but do you foresee that the Brexit will force other EU members to begin to look at Nigeria?
I must say that they're already looking.
Okay.
They're already looking into Nigeria. In fact, the EU has an agreement that they are chatting about for countries to sign into. And I think Ghana has already signed. Naturally, Nigeria has not signed because we're looking at everything critically. How will it affect our people? So EU is also trying to create an opportunity of trade, getting things to move between the two countries with ease, giving concession here. If you give me this concession, I give you reciprocal concession. So the agreement has been in place, I think, for a while now. And they try. So now they're moving. Last year, I know there were quite a number of meetings locally here by the they call it European EU mission or so, you know, to get the agreement signed. So they're also angling for Nigerian market. And that shows us that, like I said, two nations or two trading nations.
Okay, it appears that Nigerians will be the only ones benefiting more from the EU. Okay, and then my last questions. Over the past 4 decades, the Nigeria-British Chamber of Commerce has been offering advisory services mostly to entrepreneurs, businesses. So, ahead of EU, what are the top 4 pieces of advice you are giving to your members? Can you share?
Okay,
so I'll start with you, ma'am. Okay,
just all right.
Before and then you give me 2.
Okay, yes. So in terms of advice, yes, of course, we can't overemphasize be prepared. What I would also say is that we are also doing our part in getting our people prepared. So for example, right now, we have 2 programs planned over the course of February and March, which are aimed towards preparing people. The first one in February is, first of all, to talk about how do we position. So we have an advocacy group who are presenting a breakfast meeting on positioning for Brexit. And during that program, we're going to have the British Deputy High Commissioner come in to speak to us. So we hear from the horse's mouth, so to say. The Ambassador Chiedu, Osakwe, who is the DG for the Nigerian Office of Trade Negotiation, will also be at that same program, again to talk to us and tell us how do we position for increased trade, what are going to be the impact, what is going to be the impact on Nigerian trade with the UK, and how do we position for that. We also have the country head of the Commonwealth, the CWEC, coming to also be at that event. He's going to talk about the broader context of the Commonwealth. So we're doing that. We have an inward mission in March. And that what do we mean by an inward mission? We're bringing people in from the UK, and we're inviting as many people as are watching this who might also be interested to join us. That inward mission is going to be focused on property tech, because we believe that property and real estate is one of the booming sectors that people will also be looking to. But more importantly than that, how can we use technology to take advantage of the entire value chain in that sector? So those are some of the things we're doing to prepare and position our people, Nigerian businesses, to be able to take advantage.
Awesome. Also, sir,
yeah,
any piece of advice?
No, I think the advice had always been that, be prepared.
Okay.
We've had a GDPR program, that's the General Data Protection Regulation program, because now we're looking at it. In fact, we're being very prophetic too, that our members are going to do much more business than Britain and perhaps the EU. So whatever it is that is going to hinder that business, let's get it off the way now. The UK Prime Minister, Theresa May, during the last Commonwealth Summit, spoke that, look, they are also looking at, let us have common standards. Let us all agree to common standards so that we reduce the issue of standards and shorten the bridge between doing businesses. So all of this we're presenting to our members and getting them to understand what is going on. In terms of trading nations, we also have the EU platform that we also enjoin our members to work with, you know, for those who would like to go the EU, because it depends on what you sell, it depends on what you are putting. So the bigger the market, you move into the market that is big, and then you get to understand.
Okay, in a very few seconds, can you talk to an SME owner here in Nigeria on what he should be doing about a Brexit? Okay. He might not even know about Brexit, but now that he knows, what can he be doing? Okay,
thank you very much. You see, we are in an interrelated world. And again, we've talked about standards. So when we say standards, what does it mean? Your standard must not be different from my standard if we're going to work together. Can two people work together if they don't agree? So we have to unite, we have to agree on the common things. So the first thing now that the person needs to do is, first of all, do your books. We have an SME clinic coming up very shortly, because we also realize that the cost of doing these things may be too high for some SMEs to carry on their own. And that's why we're doing the clinic.
So when you talk about books, you talk about the taxes,
accounts, taxes. Okay. You know, get yourself in such a way that somebody can look at your books and say, yes, this is who you are, this is your strength, and this is what I can do for you. You know, this is how we can work together.
Awesome.
You know, and that's what the SME clinic that the chamber is putting together. When is that?
In February.
In February. And what the clinic is going to do is that the kind of professionals and consultants that you will require to get you up to the speed and the level that people can understand you. Because part of the problem in Nigeria that creates a lot of inefficiency and room for corruption is anonymity and lack of understanding of what we're doing. You know, we just walk from hand to mouth and you move on. I think you are succeeding, but people cannot read you. They cannot look at your books and say, yes, this is the level of this business. You know, so that's why we set up that clinic now, to help people at considerably discounted costs. So at least they can get to that level and then now climb on it. Awesome. Because we look at it that Brexit should create opportunity for partnership. You cannot go into another man's country and operate without a local partner. You need a local partner, no matter how knowledgeable you are in that field. So who can be the local partner other than somebody whom you can identify that this person is at my level? These are part of the anxieties and the nervousness that foreign investors do have when they're looking for local partners. I cannot place you. I like you as a person, but this is business. I need to be able to place your business and know that there's succession planning, there's accountability, there's transparency. This is how things run. It's not just a matter of how much money you make. It's not just a matter of how much cash you have in the bank.
So these are some of the things SMEs should begin to take into consideration.
Yes, those are the important things, not whether you have a lot of money or you have a lot of cash in the bank or you are making so much profit. How do you run it? When I see how you run it, it's possible to then ask how to help you better to make more money.
I mean, the process is as much important as...
In fact, much more.
Okay, on that note, I say thank you, Mr. Akin. It's been an honor speaking with you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, madam. Deeply appreciated. And on that note, we come to the end of this edition of Bounced Masterclass. I hope you have learned one or two about how to position your business for a Brexit. Thank you so much for watching.